So last week, was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. I'm losing track of time. ChatGPT, they used an internal model to get a gold medal in the International Math Olympiad. It hurts me to say math instead of maths, but there we go. So Google have immediately followed up and also done the same. So just a week later, so an advanced version of Gemini with DeepThink officially achieves gold medal standard at the International Mathematical Olympiad. So they did it a week later. This is a bit like, oh my goodness, what's his name? Bannister, the first person to run a 4-minute mile. It feels a bit like that when one person manages to do it, everyone else will come flooding in and be able to do it. It will become a trivial task. So last week, this was big news that ChatGPT had achieved this gold medal in the Olympiad. Now, a few days later, we have seen Google do the same. And I imagine we'll have Anthropic and Grok and all the other models passing the same test in a relatively short amount of time. What's interesting about this is that the ChatGPT attempt was relatively unofficial. I think they did it, I'm not sure of the exact officiality, but they did it outside of the normal boundaries of the IMO. And so it managed to pass, but it wasn't officially sanctioned. Whereas it looks like, here we go, it looks like Google have done it properly. I'm just trying to find where it is. So Google has earned 35 out of a possible 42 points, which is a gold medal solution. And it's using the new DeepThink mode. This is, again, it's an internal model. So the same with ChatGPT's attempt or success last week. It is something that is not yet available to the general public, but being tested internally. So we don't actually have the ability to test this ourselves. I don't think they're lying. I just think that does introduce the potential for overfit in the model potentially. And we won't really know until we have these models in our own hands. But either way, it's a large and very substantial push in the right direction, because previously large language models were that. They were language models. What's happening now is we're seeing the use of language, which is what large language models are trained on, that allows us to push further and further into reasoning. We're still reasoning using language, but that is now allowing us to move to outside of language into mathematics. A frequent criticism of large language models were things like how many R's are there in strawberry, which is a computational question. It is about counting. We have machines that are really good at computation. They are called computers. We've had them for a long time, but this was always a criticism that was levied at generative AI and large language models is, oh, they can't even do 2 plus 2. That was because they were not built to do that, because we have computers already. We did not need to build a new system to do 2 plus 2. That is a trivial problem. What we're seeing now, though, is these new advanced models from ChatGPT and now from Google. They are able to reason at such a level using natural language that they can solve complicated mathematical problems. And again, the ChatGPT attempt the other day was done without external tools. So it was not allowed to call to Python, for example, to do calculations. That will be the same. I haven't read it explicitly, but that will be the same with the Gemini model, because you're not allowed to use external tools when you do the International Math Olympiad. So they will be making a version of DeepThink, this new Gemini model, available to a set of trusted testers, including mathematicians. Makes sense, before rolling it out to Google AI Ultra subscribers. So giving it to mathematicians makes sense because, let's be honest, the majority of us won't be able to even test whether this is a good model, because our level of mathematical knowledge and ability and kind of discernment is not high enough. This is increasingly becoming a problem with very high-end models, where the normal person, the lay person, the everyday person in the street who is using the new version of ChatGPT, we don't have complicated enough problems for these models to solve. So it's very hard for us to tell whether they're getting better or not in certain areas. So it looks like Google are rolling it out to mathematicians because they'll actually know whether it's a good model or not. Whereas for the rest of us, if we're trying to calculate how much flour I need for a cake recipe, I do not need something of this caliber. It is complete overkill. So exciting news, and really cool to see that Google have immediately caught up with ChatGPT. What that tells me was they were probably ready to pull the trigger and do this test publicly a few weeks ago, but then ChatGPT came out, did it, and then there's been a rush at Google over the weekend. We need to do it now. We need to also publish our results. So they were picked to the post slightly by OpenAI, but at least they are at the same level. So very cool.